remembering the pain as the bullet tore through my chest, through my bones and into my heart, splitting it into two. Remembering the pain as the tears flowed down my cheeks and onto the floor. Remembering the pain as I screamed at the top of my lungs how much I hated you for hurting me, how much I hated you for tearing through every bit of my soul. Remembering the pain as I broke the glass and tipped over the chairs. Remembering the pain as I laid on the kitchen floor, consumed by a bottle of wine night after night, losing my strength during the days. I remember the pain after putting on a smile, grinning to bear the pearly whites as lumps welled in my throat. I remember the pain of trying to wake up at the rise of the sun to place just a foot on the floor, and how hard it was to see because my eyes swole from filling buckets with tears in the moonlight. I remember having long nights and short days because the dark clouds settled over my head. I remember the pain of being told I was not good enough. I remember the moment the sun shone again and my smile became real again and I began to feel again. And when the sun rose, my eyes opened with it. I remember the first time I laughed after feeling the first stitch mending the rift in my heart. I remember the first bite of food I had after not being able to eat for so long. I remember my first night's rest without tears. I remember rolling my first spliff and feeling my first high and writing my first poem after I felt the second stitch tugging the pieces of my heart closer together. I remember having my first ice cream and doing my first poetry slam. I remember my second poetry slam and my first headliner. I remember my first headliner because I remember meeting him. I remember the guy who would help me to forget you. I remember looking into his eyes and hearing his voice. One more stitch mended my heart. I remember our first date and touch and hug and kiss. And I remember the words he said and the songs he played. I remember because with one smile or a word he caused 3 more stitches to close the gap in my heart. And I remember when we laughed, and I remember when I got scared and cried for the first time in front of him. I remember how he held me and 1 more stitch closed the gap even tighter. I remember there was 1 more stitch to go, 1 more stitch to make it 8. 8, my favorite number. 8, if turned sideways, is infinity. Infinity, infinity, infinity is what I saw when he looked at me. 1 more stitch. And I remember the moment he held me close, looked at me, and then turned his head away. I remember because in that moment he said to me, "You are not the one." I remember hearing my heart shatter like glass breaking after being struck hard. I remember feeling everything unravel. Every stitch that was to mend my heart, make me whole again, got ripped out and torn into a million pieces. I remember the moment I lost hope. I remember the moment I lost hope. I remember the moment I lost hope in love. I remember.